Leonardo DiCaprio, a name that is synonymous with exceptional acting, talent, and captivating screen presence. Whether you're a fan of his or not, it's undeniable that he is widely regarded as one of Hollywood's finest film actors. I must admit, I've been a fan of Leo's ever since he was a kid. No, not like Brian Peck was a fan of his. No, not like that. But I was a fan of his work ever since I first saw him on Growing Pains, where he played Luke, an orphan living on the streets that Mike Seaver finds and befriends and brings home to live with him and his family in Long Island. I mean, even as a young actor, he demonstrated remarkable range and depth.
One night he came after me with a baseball bat. If I hadn't run, he would have killed me.
Oh my God.
I tell you, it's the liquor that does it to him. It does it to everybody. It's poison.
And you didn't want that to happen again, did you?
No.
So you took our wine?
Yes!
But you didn't drink it.
I poured it down the drain, every damn drop of it!
While some often compare him to the likes of Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, proclaiming that he is one of the greatest actors of all time, I wouldn't go that far. Although I do believe DiCaprio is one of the best actors of his generation, I can't put him on the same level as a young Pacino or De Niro. Leonardo DiCaprio's a unique talent in his own right, consistently delivering outstanding performances in a variety of roles. In fact, it's his versatility that inspired me to take a closer look at his filmography and rank my top 20 favorite Leonardo DiCaprio performances. Initially, I considered ranking all of his films, but in the interest of focusing on his most impressive work, I decided to leave out some of the less memorable titles, the garbage, such as Don's Plum, Celebrity, J. Edgar, and a few others. Instead, I've chosen to highlight 20 of my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio film performances. Now, this is my ranking of his performances in the films, and not necessarily how I actually would rank these films against each other. So I'm not saying one film is better than the other. I'm just saying I enjoy his performance in this film more than I did this other film. So without further ado, let's dive into my top 20 favorite Leonardo DiCaprio film performances. Number 20. Titanic. Some people might be relieved that Titanic is so low on the list, and others may not think it even deserves to be on it. But remember, this is about Leonardo DiCaprio's performance, not the movie, which I don't care what anyone says, Titanic is a really good movie. But it's really low on the list because I don't think Leo is acting, which normally should exclude it from even being on the list, but I guess it's actually a compliment. What I mean is, prior to this film, Leonardo DiCaprio was known for always playing a character that had some kind of affliction, either an emotional issue, like being abused, or having a psychological issue, or a dependency on something. You'll see as we continue on the list what I'm talking about. So he always relied on a crutch when he was portraying a character. So for him to do this movie and playing Jack Dawson with just being a regular person had to be kind of difficult for him. And I think I even remember James Cameron stating that after Leonardo DiCaprio was cast in Titanic, he came up to him and said, I was talking with my father and we think that Jack should have some kind of issue, like a limp or a stutter. And James Cameron shut that down and said, maybe it's just too hard for you to play straight. So I don't know. Supposedly after James Cameron told him that, he said that it seemed like it clicked in Leo, like this was actually a challenge for him to play this like a straight character. So maybe him not relying on a crutch and playing the character Jack Dawson straight was actually harder for him than it seemed. And maybe that's why it doesn't seem like he's acting when he's actually really is acting. Also, it's pretty remarkable that such a cheesy one-note love story had such an effect that when people saw the movie in the theaters, as I remember, I saw this twice in the movie theaters when I was a kid, that when Jack dies, everybody in the theater was crying. I think it's also a testament to James Cameron's writing. James Cameron is able to do a lot with a little. He makes great films and the story's always meh. And this story is pretty much meh, but he adds so much hurdles and hoops for Jack and Rose to overcome in order to be together, that when we come to the end, when they finally choose to stay with each other and be together, and to try to save each other over and over, both of them saving one another, that it comes down to the ending. And it's just so like heartbreaking for a lot of people who saw it in the theaters. And you just weren't expecting that. And I guess the testament to Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio for portraying these characters in such a way that we actually become emotionally invested, and we didn't know we were. Anyway, that's why Titanic is number 20. Number 19. Romeo and Juliet, the movie that solidified Leonardo DiCaprio as a teen heartthrob. Well, if it didn't solidify him, then Titanic was the one that solidified him. But this one was the one that introduced him to a bunch of girls that didn't know who Leonardo DiCaprio was if they never saw Growing Pains. Actually, the reason why this is so low on the list is because I heard when I was younger at the time that Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes had such a difficult time filming this movie because they didn't understand the dialogue. And he needed help to understand what was being said and how to portray these emotions and these words at the same time with this modern time setting. It's just Romeo and Juliet, same dialogue as William Shakespeare's play, just done in a modern setting with modern technology. So they didn't understand what they were doing. Well, I will say, even with all that and not understanding the dialogue and needing help with the dialogue, he does a really good job in the movie doing something. But then again, he's relying on this affliction thing, which is his pain, that he loves this woman, this sorrow, this angst, that he can't be with her because his families are at war with each other, and he loves her. And then when he's about to be with her, she dies, and then he goes crazy, and there's all this emotion. That's what he was known for at the time. So he does a good job in that aspect, but knowing that he had a hard time with the dialogue, he didn't understand what he was doing, and he still managed to give a pretty good performance, I had to put it on the list. Because if it wasn't for that, I really don't like Baz Luhrmann, to be honest. So this would have not been on my list at all. But DiCaprio does a good job in this film, and that's why it's number 19. Number 18. The 1993 drama This Boy's Life marked a significant turning point in Leonardo DiCaprio's career. It was his first leading role in a major motion picture, and the film saw him starring alongside Robert De Niro in a story about a young boy named Toby Wolfe and his relationship with his abusive stepfather. I wonder what it was like being this young and working with Robert De Niro on set. I mean, De Niro's known for his intense acting style and his dedication to his craft, i.e. method acting. I wonder how he really treated DiCaprio on set. Regardless of how De Niro actually treated him on set or not, it had to be somewhat significant enough to lead DiCaprio to start adopting method acting after working with De Niro. So he had to have been somewhat, in my mind, of an ass to DiCaprio while filming. But there's a rule in Hollywood where you don't really talk about other actors and methods and things that go on behind the scenes, so you just let it go. And when people ask you, you say, oh, he was great or whatever. And maybe he was, because it did inspire him to take up method acting, so you could go either way with that. Anyway, in the film, Toby moves into a new town with his mother, only to have his life upended when she meets and marries Dwight, played by Robert De Niro, and they have to move again. Dwight, played by Robert De Niro, is a loser, a fraud, a liar who soon begins to torment and abuse Toby both physically and mentally because he doesn't like Toby and Toby's relationship with his mother. As the years of abuse wear on, Toby becomes desperate to escape, eventually earning a scholarship that only serves to further anger Dwight. The tension culminates in a dramatic, climactic fight scene between the two, and I will say that is the highlight of the film, especially De Niro's line,
You are pathetic.
Whore, liar, liar, whore, and you know it.
Anyway, I think the film is okay. At the time, I thought more highly of the film. But in today's day and age, I think Toby made a big deal about nothing, considering all the tragic horror stories we hear about abusive homes and the documentaries you can find on Netflix on this issue. But rewatching it, I discovered that it's DiCaprio's performance that truly elevates it. And then you just got De Niro as being this asshole antagonist that it works because it's De Niro. If it was any two other actors, I don't think this movie would have been good. I think it probably would have been a Lifetime movie or a Hallmark Channel movie. In fact, it was De Niro who ended up recommending DiCaprio to Martin Scorsese when Scorsese was looking for an actor to cast for Gangs of New York. So DiCaprio did do a good enough job to garner De Niro's approval. Overall, This Boy's Life was a pivotal moment in Leonardo DiCaprio's career, providing him with a challenging role that allowed him to demonstrate his acting abilities and paving the way for his future success in the industry. Number 17. In my opinion, not only was Body of Lies an underrated espionage film, but Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in it is also highly underrated. DiCaprio delivers a solid and captivating performance as CIA operative Roger Ferris, who is embedded in the Middle East, working undercover to gather intel on terrorist cells and play people off one another in order to achieve his goal. While the plot can be somewhat convoluted at times, making it difficult to fully understand his objectives, this does not detract from DiCaprio's impressive acting. There's also one of the other times early on in DiCaprio's career where he got to work alongside another very big name actor. And in this film, we got to see him working alongside Russell Crowe. And to see those two acting off each other was interesting, especially since Russell Crowe gained weight for this role and he never lost it. So he struggled losing it ever since. Despite the film not doing well at the box office, I don't believe this was due to the performances of the directing or the actors. Instead, I think that since the film was released in 2008 during the time, because we were just getting out of Iraq, we were tired of being at war for so long. So I think it was more so that because we kept seeing that in the news all the time. So when this movie came out and it was about the Middle East and the conflict there, and just people weren't interested to go see it. That's just my opinion and how I felt at the time. This is probably I believe, the only Leonardo DiCaprio film to come out at this time period that I did not go to the theaters to see. I had no interest in it at all. And surprisingly, when I did go see it, I was like, this isn't that bad. I'm surprised it didn't make any money. I think I actually enjoyed it much more when I first saw it than I am now. Nonetheless, DiCaprio's performance in Body of Lies is undoubtedly one of his best, and the film is far more enjoyable than some of his other works, like J. Edgar. This is why his performance in Body of Lies is on the list. Number 16. The Revenant is a visually stunning and visceral masterpiece that showcases Leonardo DiCaprio's acting prowess. The film follows the harrowing journey of Hugh Glass, played by DiCaprio, a frontiersman and a fur trapper in the early 19th century who is viciously mauled by a black bear. His son is then murdered and he's left for dead. Glass manages to temporarily tend to his wounds and garner enough strength to escape death and seeks revenge against his betrayer, John Fitzgerald, played by Tom Hardy. DiCaprio's performance is nothing short of extraordinary. With barely any lines, he manages to convey a wide range of emotions through his facial expressions, body language, grunts, and probably freezing, because I think he was probably really freezing as well. When I first saw this movie, I didn't really like it. I thought the director was kind of pretentious. I mean, really, I was kind of like, how did he win an Oscar for this film when he barely has any lines? But after rewatching this film, I appreciate it much more now than I originally did. And I see what the director was actually doing. Besides telling this story, he's also showcasing the landscape and how even though Leonardo DiCaprio's character is out in the wilderness, he's still kind of isolated and he has outside threats not only from nature, but also from the other Native American tribes. And then what elevates the movie a little bit even more is Tom Hardy's performance. He is a true villain. Everything you see that's going on the screen really was going on. This is not filmed on a soundstage. And at that moment where he eats that raw fish, he's actually really eating that raw fish. And that's probably why they gave him the Oscar, because he really immersed himself into this world and into this role. And to decide, hey, let's give this guy the Oscar now. Even though I think he deserved it for The Aviator, to be honest. That's the one I think he really deserved the Oscar for. But anyway, honestly, The Revenant is a cinematic triumph that showcases Leonardo DiCaprio's incredible acting talent. While it may be slow-paced at times, as I said, and a bit boring, the film is, like I said, visually stunning. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece of film. And it's not higher on the list because he doesn't have much more to go on besides it's a one-note film about a man going after the guy who murdered his son and left him for dead. So DiCaprio just has this one emotion throughout the entire film and barely any lines. And then he does speak in, I forgot what language it is, or what tribe language it is, but Native American. So, I mean, he's pretty amazing in this movie. So I had to put this on here, and I didn't want to go any higher. As I was looking at all the other films, I was like, oh wow, there's so many other times where he's great in a wide variety of ranges. And this film is really good. Maybe it should be higher on my list. But honestly, this is one of my favorite DiCaprio films, or one of my favorite performances from him. Watching this again, I was like, you know what? This is not even being an actor. This is going above and beyond being an actor. So, you know, he's not lines he has to memorize. It's things he has to do, physicality and It's just great. It's a good film. It's a good film. It's not my favorite DiCaprio film, and it's not my favorite DiCaprio performance, so that's why I put it at number 16. Number 15. Revolutionary Road reunites Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, taking on the roles of Frank and April Wheeler. But unlike in Titanic, where the two meet and they fall in love, this film focuses on a couple who can't stand each other. The Wheelers were never truly in love. They met at a party, found each other interesting and attractive, and eventually began a romantic relationship. After April became pregnant, they decided to abandon their dreams and ambitions, get married, buy a suburban house, settle down for a routine life, as that was expected for the time. Frank took an office job he hated, while April became a homemaker, a role she despised. Both of them felt trapped as they had expected more from their lives. The performances by DiCaprio and Winslet are nothing short of remarkable, and the film's music is beautifully depressing and perfectly complements the 1950s setting. The movie has a strong theatrical feel, more akin to a play than a film, and I didn't look it up. It might actually have been a play that they adapted into a film. This film feels like it should be seen on Broadway. And by the way, let me add that Sam Mendes does a terrific job, and the music does, I think he uses this composer for all of his films, or at least he did for Road to Perdition, because that's the feel I get, the music, the sound, but this one, I love this theme. I really do love this theme for this film. When I first saw this film, I remembered the scene where Leonardo DiCaprio cries towards the end of the film. That, for some reason, in my mind, reminded me of the scene of Al Pacino at the end of The Godfather Part 3, where his daughter dies and he's holding her and he's screaming and nothing's coming out, and then he lets out this loud scream. And everyone just stops and looks at him, and that was actually real. Everybody, all the other actors were looking at Pacino because he really let out that scream that wasn't planned. And in this film, for some reason, I thought DiCaprio had a similar performance, and upon rewatching it, I realized that he actually doesn't. But it's everything else that leads up to that scene that makes it as powerful as Pacino's scene. Nervous, he's anxious, he's worried. It's just masterfully executed. It's something about this, and the way he exits from the back when he gets the news and he comes out. It's just his body movement and everything. He's using so many things to convey that scream that Al Pacino released. That's what he does in this film. He conveys that without actually screaming. It's masterfully executed. Overall, Revolutionary Road is a great film, one that many can relate to, particularly those who feel that their lives didn't turn out the way they expected and the sacrifices they had to make along the way. Aside from its powerful themes, the film is also worth watching for the reunion of DiCaprio, Kate Winslet, and Kathy Bates. She was in Titanic, and she is in this film, and she plays an interesting character. And also Michael Shannon's in this, and he's playing another weirdo, as he usually did back in the day during this time period, even when he got onto Boardwalk Empire. So he's pretty good in this film too. It really is a really good film, one that I think a lot of people probably overlooked at the time because it's just about two people, about a couple, and it's just, I don't know. This is not a movie a lot of people will go see, technically, you know? But it's fantastic, and I think Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in this is phenomenal. I highly recommend this movie. If you've never seen Revolutionary Road, you should definitely go check it out. Number 14. I know a lot of people are not going to be happy about The Wolf of Wall Street's position here on my list, but it's my list, and although I do like the film, I have to be honest and say that I don't think it's one of Leo's most outstanding performances. At times while watching this film, I thought of it more as a documentary about Leo and his younger years with his friends and the Pussy Posse. Oh, yeah. You probably don't know what I'm talking about. Well, back when Leo was younger, him and a group of his friends, Tobey Maguire included, used to call themselves the Pussy Posse because allegedly they would all hang out and try to bang girls on the same night or something. Anyway, after some backlash, they rebranded themselves the Wolf Pack. But watching this originally, that's what I thought. I thought that this was just, a good movie, funny. I really enjoyed it, but it just looked like we were watching Leonardo DiCaprio's real life. But that was until I actually heard the real Jordan Belfort speak. I can't believe Leonardo DiCaprio actually did an amazing job, because one of the most impressive aspects of his performance was his ability to make me sympathize with Jordan Belfort. Like, if I had known what Jordan Belfort was actually like prior to seeing this film, I wouldn't have sympathized with him. In addition to his emotional range, DiCaprio's comedic timing is impeccable here. I mean, honestly, I don't think he's done a comedy since Growing Pains in his films. So him coming back, and this movie's this movie's really funny. It's more funny than dramatic. People like to compare this to Goodfellas, and it's honestly not really anything like Goodfellas except for the super rise and fall of our character, Jordan Belfort, with the same thing with Henry Hill and the drug use. And Leo manages to show us the transformation from Jordan from being a naive and ambitious young man to a ruthless and hedonistic stockbroker. While The Wolf of Wall Street might not be one of the most iconic roles in Leonardo DiCaprio's filmography, both to some people, for me, no. But it is an impressive feat where he manages to balance comedy and drama, create empathy for a morally ambiguous character, and showcase his comedic timing and physical acting skills, which makes this performance one of his most memorable. But I know everybody loves this film in general because, you know, it's an iconic film in pop culture, and there's memes for days about this movie. But I like this movie. I do enjoy it. I didn't think his performance was outstanding until I rewatched it, and then until I heard Jordan Belfort actually speak, the real guy, and I was like, wow, Leo did a fantastic job. Also, the comedic stuff. Leo was great in this movie, so that's why I put it on the list. Number 13. I'm generally not a fan of remakes, as they often fail to live up to the original, with a few exceptions like Dawn of the Dead. But with every good one like Dawn of the Dead, you have like 20 terrible ones like A Nightmare on Elm Street. So, needless to say, I wasn't looking forward to this remake. And I also enjoyed the original with Robert Redford and Mia Farrow. And I'm not particularly fond of Baz Luhrmann's work. However, when I caught this one day on HBO, I was pleasantly surprised. Despite disliking the music, which seemed like a typical Luhrmann gimmick, it was Leonardo DiCaprio's performance that made me enjoy the film. But not in the beginning. It was once he reunited with Daisy. That's when I started to believe his portrayal of Gatsby. Everything before that was like, just didn't click with me. And whenever he would say, oh, sport, oh, thanks, sport, I just didn't believe it because he didn't have the presence of like a gentleman. Even though he had the money and he had the, you know, the look and the house and everything, just, I don't know, Robert Redford seems like a man and Leonardo DiCaprio seemed like a boy. But once he met Daisy, that's when I started to believe in his portrayal of Gatsby and his motivations. I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this film, and it was largely due to DiCaprio's convincing performance. Carey Mulligan is more believable as Daisy. I don't think I ever liked Mia Farrow as Daisy in the original. And in this film, when she decides not to go with Gatsby, it really upset me. Actually, it really pissed me off. Tobey Maguire is awful, and the guy who plays Buchanan is great. I like that he's more villainous in this version than he is in the other one. You really hate him. He's a real piece of garbage, and you kind of hope Gatsby gets what he wants, but you know where it's going to go. If you've seen the original, you read the book in high school. So it's pretty sad, and it really actually, I got more emotional at the ending of this one than I did in the 1974 Gatsby version with Redford. So yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio saves the film, in my opinion, and yeah, I like this film, surprisingly. A Baz Luhrmann film I actually do like. Number 12. In Christopher Nolan's mind-bending sci-fi thriller Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio delivers a magnificent performance as Don Cobb, a skilled thief who specializes in extracting valuable information from the subconscious of his targets. In a world where corporate espionage takes place within the realm of dreams, Cobb is a master of his craft, navigating the dreamscapes with precision and finesse. DiCaprio's portrayal of Cobb is nuanced and layered, effectively conveying the character's internal struggles and emotional depth. Haunted by the loss of his wife and desperate to reunite with his children, Cobb's motivations are complex and compelling, adding a poignant dimension to the high-stakes action. In this film, DiCaprio is able to convey vulnerability and determination in equal measure, which makes his performance stand out in this entire film. And I think it works so well because it feels like an ensemble piece whenever he's with everybody else, because it feels like they're always together. And I don't know if that changed his acting at all or made him more subtle than he normally would be in a film like this, but he does a really good job in this film. And yes, I know, I love Inception, I really do. I think it's probably Christopher Nolan's best film ever. And the only reason why it's over here is because DiCaprio's done better performances. Anyway, I really do love this film. I think DiCaprio's performance in it is a testament to his talent. I've said this a million times before. When I think Leonardo DiCaprio now, versatility. He's a versatile actor. He really is. He's magnificent. And you know, I think this is Christopher Nolan's best film he's ever made. And if it was just ranking films, this would be number one. And by the way, I have a feeling that he is still dreaming. I watched this again recently, and I'm like, I think he's still dreaming. There's a whole scene where, I mean, besides the fact that that was Mal's totem. It's supposed to be his, but it's hers. I don't know. I got to rewatch it again, but I feel like something told me, it's like, I think he's still dreaming. Anyway, I like the movie. It's a great movie, and I think DiCaprio's performance in it is fantastic. Number 11. The Departed is the second time Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese would team up together. The first one being Gangs of New York. And this time they give you an Irish mob thriller. As Leonardo DiCaprio plays Billy Costigan, a police officer who goes undercover to infiltrate the Irish mob led by Frank Costello, portrayed by Jack Nicholson. I don't think there's ever going to be an actor like Leonardo DiCaprio ever again. I mean, just looking at his filmography, look at all the great talented actors he worked with. It's remarkable. He's gotten a chance to learn from all these actors, and in this film, he gets to learn from Jack Nicholson, which maybe taught him to kind of improv a little bit more in a more serious way. Because I believe Jack Nicholson improv'd a lot of scenes in this film, or he rewrote a lot of scenes in this film. And there are times that sometimes the dialogue doesn't seem actually correct. Like Leo's sticking to the script, but Nicholson says something totally off. And you could see DiCaprio looking at him like, I'm not really sure at those moments he's really acting or he's really confused. Especially the part where Nicholson goes up behind him and starts making that rat face. And Leonardo DiCaprio's eyes, like he realizes someone's behind him and he turns and he looks. I don't think that was acting. I think that was really, he was like, what the fuck? So it's really interesting. But anyway, in The Departed, DiCaprio fully immerses himself in the role of Billy Costigan, effectively conveying the character's inner turmoil and moral complexity as Costigan grapples with his double life, also fearing for his life because he knows that Frank Costello is unpredictable. DiCaprio masterfully portrays the character's growing desperation. His ability to convey a wide range of emotions from the fear and the vulnerability to determination and resolve is truly remarkable. And he kicks a lot of ass in this film, like everybody, because he has anger issues. DiCaprio's performance in The Departed showcases his talent for bringing complex characters to life. And I really do believe that this movie, with the help of Jack Nicholson, of seeing how Jack Nicholson worked, I mean, again, he came off of working with Daniel Day-Lewis and then now working with Jack Nicholson. I think working with these two phenomenal actors, it molded him into being the great actor that he is today. Number 10. The Basketball Diaries is probably the second most traumatizing film I've ever seen that isn't a horror movie. The first one being the movie Kids. But Basketball Diaries is another one of those films that really, really disturbed me. This is coming off of This Boy's Life. Leonardo DiCaprio stars in the movie as Jim Carroll, a kid who goes to Catholic school with his buddies, one played by Mark Wahlberg, and they're just regular high school kids that love to play basketball. They play for their team. And one day, Jim goes with his friend to see these two girls that are wealthy, and they give him drugs, and he becomes an addict. And the entire film is about Jim Carroll becoming a heroin addict. And not just him and his friends. But I don't know, this feels like it was kind of like a Dare PSA movie type deal. I don't know if they were involved in it because, like, you know, DiCaprio's character does every single drug. Him and Mark Wahlberg, they take uppers and downers, which, you know what, when you're a teenager and you're experimenting, I guess some kids do try multiple kinds of drugs and things like that. But I don't know. All I know is watching this film, it was very disturbing as a kid. It's still kind of terrible now, but I don't know. It's a pretty disturbing film. And there's also a scene that's in, I saw this movie, I had this VHS prior to, you know, what happened. But there's a scene in this movie that is direct. I mean, they wiped this movie out. You can't really find it. You can't find it streaming or anywhere. I think you could buy it, you know, but there's a part in this movie where Leonardo DiCaprio is dreaming about what he wants to do to his school, and he walks in with a trench coat and he pulls a Columbine. And this happened before Columbine. And I think there was even a lawsuit involved with this film, saying that the film was part to blame along with other media outlets. Yeah, so this movie was blamed for that, and I don't think it was definitely responsible for the actions of those two assholes that did Columbine, but I think they did, you know, dress up like DiCaprio's character because of the dream sequence in that film. I don't think they were inspired by it, because the film is really just about Leonardo DiCaprio and his group of friends getting addicted to drugs and how they almost ruined their lives. And actually, one of them does ruin their life completely. Mark Wahlberg's character ends up, he doesn't kill the person, but the person dies and he gets arrested for it, and he has to do time for it, and it's not his fault. But yeah, it's a really gripping and disturbing fucking film. DiCaprio delivers, another emotional and captivating performance. DiCaprio skillfully portrays the character's descent from a promising athlete to a desperate addict. This movie is really good. I really enjoy this film. I was debating on whether to put this higher or not on my list, but this is a really good film. If you can find it, you should definitely check it out. And his performances stands as a testament to his talent. If you watch this, you already know. You go, oh, this guy has it. He had it. And you could tell he had it even back here. But then again, like I said, he's always good at doing, pulling on his emotions. But he's fantastic in this movie. So if you haven't never seen the Basketball Diaries, you definitely need to check it out. But prepare to be depressed. Number 9. In What's Eating Gilbert, Grape, Leonardo DiCaprio delivers a absolute remarkable performance as Arnie Grape, a boy that's mentally challenged, to be nice about it. I don't know how he really even decided to take this role, because according to rumors or gossip or whatever, allegedly, when he was in high school, they used to call him Leonardo Retardo. So I don't know why he would take up this role, but he did. And you know what? I see something in this role. I mean, because people are going to say anybody could do this role. I don't really think so, because remember what Robert Downey Jr. said in Tropic Thunder? You never go full retard. Well, Arnie's pretty full retard in this film, and they actually nominated DiCaprio for an Academy Award. And I think I know exactly when. First of all, he embodies a little child, like a little boy. His happy-go-lucky, not understanding anything, not understanding emotions of other people, anger or sadness, but he understands kind of death when he kills the little crick in the beginning of the movie. So he understands what he did after he did it, and now he knows the consequences. But then later on, at the end of the film, he realizes that his mother passes away, and that's when I say, in my opinion, that he absolutely, I cannot put into words the gravitas of that scene, of his facial expressions of his eyes, just his eyes, really, because he's acting as Arnie, so he's trying to contort his face to look like he has throughout the entire film. But then once he notices his mother's dead, it's DiCaprio's mannerisms and his eyes, his eye movement. You could just see with his eyes the realization that his mother is dead. And he's not overacting. He just suddenly conveys this with his eyes. And that's when I was like, oh my God, he's really great. I should probably reconsider not considering him one of the top actors of all time, because really this is truly amazing. Honestly, I think DiCaprio is simply remarkable in this film. And I love Arnie Grape. He's a sweet little kid. And I feel bad, especially, when Johnny Depp beats him up. Oh, and by the way, when Robert De Niro recommended Leonardo DiCaprio to play in Gangs of New York to Martin Scorsese said, but he's retarded, because the only thing Martin Scorsese ever saw him in was What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and he really thought that Leonardo DiCaprio was mentally challenged. So that's great acting, in my opinion. It's a really good movie. I like What's Eating Gilbert Grape. If you have never seen it before, definitely check this one out. And I think DiCaprio is phenomenal in this. He should have won an Oscar, the Best Supporting Actor role for this. I don't know who won that year, but I know he was nominated, and I think he should have won. Number 8. In Shutter Island, Leonardo DiCaprio showcases his ability to fully immerse himself in a character without relying on preconceived notions or future plot points. He embodies the role of Teddy Daniels, a U.S. Marshal investigating a mysterious disappearance without allowing the audience to see any hint of the character's true identity as Andrew Laeddis. Although I do know there are people, including my brother, who said that they knew what the twist ending was going to be from the beginning of the first scene. I did not. When I saw this movie in the theaters, I don't think I delved into the trailer as much or looked at the summary of what the film was about. It was this Leonardo DiCaprio, Martin Scorsese film, and I wanted to see it. I didn't even think it was going to be this psychological thriller that's more reminiscent of a Stanley Kubrick film than a Scorsese film. And if Cape Fear was Martin Scorsese's way of paying homage to Alfred Hitchcock, then I think Shutter Island is his way of paying homage to Stanley Kubrick, because I see a lot of Kubrick in this film, as well as the score of the movie. I think DiCaprio, by focusing on the character Teddy Daniels instead of focusing on Andrew Latis. See, I don't think he's actually playing Andrew Latis being Teddy Daniels. I think he decided to focus on he's being Teddy Daniels. He's trying to uncover this conspiracy. He wants to find the guy who's supposedly responsible for murdering his wife, and he wants us to believe that because he believes that. So I think he went in that direction as trying to convey that so the audience would truly believe that he is Teddy Daniels and there is this big conspiracy. So this way, when we get to the end, we're shocked. I was a little bit shocked. I was like, what the hell? And then I had to go back and watch all these things. If you knew before me, good for you. But I think his performance in Shutter Island demonstrates his ability to become the character, reacting to events in the moment, rather than relying on predetermined understanding of the character's true identity and motivations. I think by him doing that, it was more authentic and more engaging portrayal of a complex character in this psychological thriller. So for me, other people might not like it, but I like Shutter Island. I love his performance in Shutter Island. I think it's fantastic, and I like the twist ending. I like everything about the movie, and I love the ending. I love the fact that at the end, it's like he is aware, he knows, and he just can't live with that. I love Shutter Island. I think it's a fantastic film. I like everybody in the movie except for Mark Ruffalo. I don't like anything Mark Ruffalo's ever done, but I love DiCaprio in this film. I think he did a phenomenal job. Number 7. Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in Blood Diamond is nothing short of exceptional. In this gripping tale set against the backdrop of Sierra Leone's civil war, DiCaprio brings to life the character of Danny Archer, a South African mercenary and diamond smuggler. His portrayal is layered and nuanced, effectively conveying the character's moral ambiguity and transformation throughout the film. I thought DiCaprio's commitment to the role was evident with his mastery of the South African accent, although I know a lot of people were criticizing it and saying that was a terrible South African accent, but I actually thought it was really good. So I'm going to go with my opinion over everyone else's. His ability to navigate the emotional spectrum of his character, from ruthless smuggler to a man gripping with his conscience, is a testament to his great acting ability. I also think that DiCaprio had great chemistry with his co-star, the guy from Amistad, I do not know how to say his name, who played the fisherman searching for his son. I thought that was great. I thought it was compelling. And I thought it added a human touch to a character that just seemed like a grimy sort of diamond smuggler. While Blood Diamond has been criticized for handling its political themes, DiCaprio's performance remains a standout element of the film. His ability to embody a character who is at once cynical and hopeful, ruthless and compassionate is a testament to his skills. DiCaprio's performance in Blood Diamond is a prime example of his versatility, as I keep saying throughout this entire video, and his ability to bring depth to a complex role. Number 6. In Gangs in New York, Leonardo DiCaprio effectively captures the spirit of a young man navigating the treacherous Five Points area of New York City, seeking retribution for his father's death while also grappling with questions of identity and loyalty. In his role, DiCaprio demonstrates a strong emotional range, seamlessly transitioning from moments of vulnerability to those of fierce determination. His on-screen chemistry with Daniel Day-Lewis, who plays Bill the Butcher, the man who murdered his father, adds a layer to the depth of this narrative. Also, I have to wonder how it actually was that if Daniel Day-Lewis is a method actor, how is he going to play a person that is at one point liking a kid and then the next point hating him? I don't understand how method acting actually technically works all the time. I can understand if you're supposed to, like, let's say Robert De Niro in This Boy's Life. He's supposed to despise this kid, just pretend that he likes him, and then just treat him like miserable garbage for the entire film. So he just has to distance himself from Leo while they're filming. Same thing with Leo in other movies, but how does he work it out in this film? Also, you have to give it up to Leonardo DiCaprio. This is like another main film that actually distinguished him away from being just a regular actor. And what I mean by regular actor, I'd say like Ewan McGregor or Jude Law. These people were famous at the time period that Leo was famous, but they're not on the same level as Leo, even though I believe Leo took the role that was supposed to be for Ewan McGregor for Danny Boyle's The Beach. And then Ewan McGregor didn't work with Danny Boyle after that for years because of it. Anyway, so he works with Robert De Niro, who is a method actor on This Boy's Life. And he does some films in between he's phenomenal in. And then he works with Daniel Day-Lewis, one of the greatest actors of all time, literally top 3, if not number 1, as I said earlier. And he's another method actor. So he had to take this in and use it because he just realized, oh, these are great actors. I have to emulate them, and how they perform is the way I should perform. But anyway, we're talking about Gangs of New York. It's a phenomenal film. DiCaprio shows a wide variety of range, and he does a great job playing this character. I believe if Daniel Day-Lewis wasn't Bill the Butcher, the movie probably wouldn't have done as well as it did, but I think Leo could have carried his performance and his part of it all the same. And I think Leonardo DiCaprio's performance remains a standout element of the film. Again, if Bill the Butcher is the star, he steals the show. Every scene you're in, you love to hate him. He's fantastic, but Leo's really good in this movie, and this did elevate him into a different category of actor. Number 5. The Aviator is my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio film. Not my favorite performance of Leonardo DiCaprio, although he does an outstanding job, and it was my favorite for a very long time. But as an actor, he progressed and did more movies, and he got better and better, so it still manages to make the top 5. And I didn't see this movie when it initially came out because I thought the poster looked ridiculous, and I was like, The Aviator, what's that about? I got it on DVD, and I fell in love with this film. But anyway, Leonardo DiCaprio's portrayal of Howard Hughes is a captivating and nuanced performance that showcases his ability to embody a complex character with both ambition and vulnerability. The film chronicles Howard Hughes' life from his early days in Hollywood to his later struggles with mental illness, and DiCaprio's performance is the highlight of the entire movie. DiCaprio is the entire movie. He did a phenomenal job, and I think he's the producer behind this, as he was in a couple of his other films. But this is the movie he went to Martin Scorsese, and he begged him over and over to direct. This was a passion project for Leonardo DiCaprio, and he was robbed from the Oscar. He definitely deserved to win the Oscar for this. I believe he was nominated, and he did not get it. I don't even know what movie got the Oscars over this, what actor got the Oscar over this, but definitely Leonardo DiCaprio should do it. And my goodness, Martin Scorsese did not want to do this movie because he said, I know nothing about aviation. I know nothing about Howard Hughes. But he decided to do it because when he looked at Howard Hughes' history and life, he saw how much Howard Hughes had an effect in the film industry, and he is passionate about the film industry, so he decided to make this movie, and it works. It starts out with him as a young boy, and he looks like a young boy, into an older man, and he doesn't really look as old as he does, and he doesn't resemble Howard Hughes totally, and he might not sound exactly like Howard Hughes, like he might not have the cadence down in his voice or the tone, but he is great in this movie. Honestly, this movie is carried all on everything, all the problems that Howard Hughes has. And he has a bunch of problems, but he accomplished so much. With a person suffering from mental illness, he manages to, not only mental illness, but I believe he has OCD on top of that, and he manages to be a success story. Howard Hughes is an amazing story if you actually look into it, and the movie is phenomenal and is gorgeous, and the music of the 20s just brings it more to life and everything. This is a masterpiece. I think this is also one of Martin Scorsese's greatest films of all time. Honestly, I love this movie. If you've never seen The Aviator, this is one. I know I told you other ones to check out. You should check those out too. But this is definitely one you should check out if you want to see beautiful filmmaking and amazing acting. This is the movie you should definitely check out. Number 4. Catch Me If You Can is one of my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio films. Obviously, that's why it's in the top 5, although not every one of these films that are in the top 5 are my favorites, but this one definitely deserves to be on there, as Leonardo DiCaprio delivers a captivating performance as Frank William Abagnale Jr. Steven Spielberg directs this film, and it chronicles the incredible true story of Abagnale, a young con artist who successfully impersonates a pilot, a doctor, and a lawyer, all before he turned 21. DiCaprio's portrayal of the charming and audacious Abagnale is both charismatic and nuanced, allowing viewers to sympathize with the character who is at its core a lonely teenager seeking validation and a sense of belonging. DiCaprio's performance sees him transform from a young man seeking adventure to a more mature individual grappling with the consequences of his actions, especially when it comes to this one girl that he actually truly did fall in love with. And I feel bad for her too. She was played by Amy Adams, and her character had an abortion, and her family disowned her after they got her the abortion. And then she meets Frank, and Frank is lying to her and telling her that he's a doctor and a lawyer. Well, he tells her he's a doctor first, and then she brings him to her family to meet, and they fall in love with him because they think he's so charming and wonderful. And then he gets caught by his arch nemesis, played by Tom Hanks, as Carl Hanratty. And they come to his wedding to arrest him, and he escapes and embarrasses her, humiliates her. He tells her who he really is, but it's terrible. This movie is fun. I saw this movie when I was younger, and I loved it. Maybe it's the whole element of him being a con artist. And one of the best things about this film is that he has chemistry with everybody he's on screen with almost. And I feel bad for almost every single woman. Besides Amy Adams, there's a lot of women in here that Frank takes advantage of. They all got conned into being with him in some way, shape, or form. But anyway, it's really his charm in the film portraying this character that makes you gravitate towards him and like him, and the element of the adventure. And it's one of Steven Spielberg's best, in my opinion. And the music is fantastic. I love the soundtrack in this film. Every single piece of music. John Williams' theme is fantastic. This is a great film. And it's one of his best performances. Number 3. Jango Unchained. Now, Jango Unchained is a good movie, but it's nowhere near as good as the original Django or the sequel to that one. But it's still a good movie, and the best performance in the entire film goes to Leonardo DiCaprio as he plays Senor Candy, or Calvin Candy. He's the owner of Candyland, which is a plantation, and on top of that, he uses his slaves to fight in, they call it Mandingo fights. But he really he's so sick, especially in the scene where he takes out the skull and he's talking about phrenology, and he basically, in that scene, supposedly, Leonardo DiCaprio, when he slams his hand on the table, he cut his hand, and that's really his blood on his hand. And since Quentin didn't call cut, he continued the entire scene. Now, I don't know if they cut in a particular moment after, because I don't know if he really rubbed his bloody hand all over Kerry Washington's face, although she acts like he really did. But that'd be fucking sick. But maybe they cut in between there. But when he slammed his hand, he really did cut himself, and he was bleeding. He continued on because Quinn didn't call cut, and they were all looking like, holy shit, I can't believe he's still going, remembering all his lines and delivering a powerful, powerful performance. He's fantastic. You hate him. He turns and at a split second, once he discovers, well, first he's trying to antagonize Django too, because he doesn't really understand Django in the first place. He plays a really, really interesting and complex character, to be quite honest with you, because he's a piece of shit, but he's trying not to play a piece of shit, and then he goes back to really being a piece of shit. So he's trying to be courteous and a great guest, and he's trying to be like above everything, you know, but above his servants and things like that, but he's not. He's a piece of garbage. And yeah, fantastic, fantastic scene. Fantastic performance. My God, he's really in the movie for like maybe 20 minutes, and he steals the fucking show. Phenomenal performance. Number 2. Killers of the Flower Moon is my least favorite Leonardo DiCaprio film, next to probably Don's Plum. I just don't like the film. I think it's too long, which has become an issue with Scorsese. But I have to admit that this is probably Leonardo DiCaprio's greatest performance of all time, in my opinion. His physical transformation for the role is remarkable. I've never seen him commit to a character in this way before. Throughout the film, he completely immerses himself into the role. Normally, when I watch a Leonardo DiCaprio film, even if he's in character and he does a good job, and I think it's one of my favorite performances of his, and I really do enjoy it, like let's say Django when he's Calvin Candy, I still see a little resemblance or a little hint that Leo's still there. In this film, I don't. I see nothing. I don't know whether it's the prosthetics, the teeth, or some other aspect of his portrayal, but he truly embodies the character of Ernest Burkhart. One aspect of the film that leaves me pondering is the complexity of his character's emotions and motivations. At times it seems like as though he genuinely loves his wife, yet his actions contradicts this. Take for instance the scene where he informs his uncle, played by Robert De Niro, about his wife's pregnancy, and De Niro's reaction to him, saying this, like, what do you mean she's pregnant? You've been poisoning her. How could she be pregnant? Aren't you scared you're gonna get sick too? And DiCaprio plays it off like an idiot, which is his entire character in the film. But I don't know at the end of it all, when he sees her and everything, if he still loves her, if he ever loved her, if he does love her. I mean, he plays it off so well that I feel like he did love her, but at the same time he was trying to poison her to kill her. But was he doing it for his uncle, or was he doing it for himself? And why was he doing it to begin with if he loved her? I mean, it makes you think and wonder, like, what the hell is wrong with this character? And it truly, I think he truly does a magnificent job doing this. Then we have the heart-wrenching scene in which he discovers the loss of his youngest child. This reaction, this visceral, like, that's my little daughter, I lost it. It really is an emotional performance and something that's believable. You can believe that. But Leo's always been great at that, but that just adds to everything. So again, like, it's his child with her. He loves his child. He loves his wife. It shows that he loves his wife at times, but yet he's trying to kill her for her money. And then throughout the film, he plays a dummy that you just know is a dummy, and he does a good job. And then his facial expressions, the voice he does, he truly became this character. And I think he did a fantastic job. And I think this is one of his best performances of all time. I honestly do. And the only reason why it's not number one is because I actually like number one a lot more. And this probably should be number one, to be honest. But number one's my favorite performance of all time. So with that being said, let's get to number one. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood isn't even my favorite Quentin Tarantino film, and I don't think Leonardo DiCaprio is outstanding and gives the best performance of his career in this movie. But for me, I don't know why I love this performance as Rick Dalton, and I think it's because every time I think about this movie, I think about that one scene where he's acting alongside Timothy Olyphant, and he's on a television show, so he's portraying this character, and he has to be this character that he's acting in, and then he has to forget his lines and break, but he has to break in Rick Dalton, and Rick Dalton has his own mannerisms and his a little bit of a stutter. So he has to do that while he then go back into acting as the character that he's portraying on this show. And for some reason, I always go to that scene and I go, Jesus, how did he do that? Because that just seems so difficult for me. Like, if I had to do that, I don't think I'd be able to accomplish that. And he did it. And I thought when I watched it the first time that it was all in one take, but it's not, that there are cuts in between. So I think I probably put it a little bit higher ranking because I thought initially that it was all one take that he didn't break, but there are cuts in there. So we don't know how many times he had to go do that because that's very difficult to do. And then the entire scene when he gets mad at himself and he goes into his trailer and he starts screaming and then he's cursing himself out and saying, like, you had to drink and all this stuff. I don't know. And also in the beginning scene when he listens to Al Pacino telling him basically that his career is over, that he has to go do something else now because he's not going to be a leading man in Hollywood anymore. They're just going to keep using him and recycling him, making him just diminishing his value. And he comes out and he looks at Clint Booth and he just sees the desperation and the turmoil and the sadness and all this emotion of just regret and just everything. He just conveys everything in that one scene where he smokes a cigarette. You think it's a funny scene. Yes, it is kind of funny the way he does it. But you can also see the pain. His life is over for him in his mind. So I don't know. This isn't the greatest performance he's ever done, but for me, this is my top 20 favorite performances, not greatest. So I say that this is my favorite performance of Leonardo DiCaprio. Again, I go back to that scene where he has to break, and then he's doing the stutter, and then he goes back into all right, and then he makes the face, and he starts doing this. I think it's great. I think he did a fantastic job. And I always go back to this movie, and I go, oh my God, I love him in this film. This is my favorite performance that he's ever done. So yeah, that's why Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and his portrayal as Rick Dalton is my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio performance of all time. So that's it. That's my top 20 favorite Leonardo DiCaprio performances. I'm going to stick by it. Those are my favorites. I understand if you disagree and you have a different opinion, well, you could go down in the comment section and let me know that I'm wrong and I'm terrible and I'm stupid, or you can go down in the comment section and list me your top 20 favorite performances. If you like this video, remember to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, share this video with somebody who you think might enjoy this video, and I will talk to you guys next time. Peace.
That was the best acting I've ever seen in my whole life.
Thank you.